Good evening. Thank you for taking a few moments with me in the Word. When I was with you on Monday, we talked about how the Lord has prepared a table for us in the presence of our enemy. So whenever we feel the enemy lurking around, that's the time to worship the Lord, because He has a table prepared for us, and it's the answer to what the enemy is trying to do. And we just pull up to the table with worship. We see His table again in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. When we look at verse 24, and it is talking about the communion, the bread and the wine. He says that the bread is His body, and in the Passion it says it this way: and He gave thanks, and then He distributed it to His disciples and said, "Take it and eat your fill. It is my body, which is given for you. Do this to remember me." So when we come to the table of the Lord, He says that we're to eat our fill of what is on the table. And He says when we do this to remember Him. It's a time of remembering the works of the Lord. We remember that He who knew no sin became sin and made us the righteousness of God. We remember that the chastisement of our peace was laid upon Him. We remember that by His stripes we were healed. It goes on in verse 26, and it says that whenever we do eat the bread and drink the cup, we're retelling the story. We're proclaiming the Lord's death until He comes. And so as we come to this table in worship, it is a testimony unto God. Psalms 40 and verse 5 says this: "Many, O Lord, my God, are thy wonderful works which thou hast done, and thy thoughts which are to usward. They cannot be reckoned up in order unto thee. If I would declare and speak of them, they are more than can be numbered." And that's it with the Lord. When we are receiving the bread and the wine, when we pull up to His table in worship, we are declaring and testifying of the goodness of God. Also, when we are coming up to this table of the Lord, we're being transparent. It says in verse 27, "For this reason, whosoever eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in the wrong spirit will be guilty of dishonoring the body and the blood of the Lord. So let each individual first evaluate his own attitude, and only then eat the bread and drink the water." You know, Psalms 139:23 says, "I invite you, God, to gaze into my heart and examine me through and through, and find if there's anything that's hidden in me." When we come to the table and worship the Lord, we are transparent before Him. We let Him search our heart and see if there's anything hidden. There was a time that I was just worshiping the Lord. That was all I was there for, is to intend it with the intention of worshiping Him. And I was loving on Him, and He was loving on me. And suddenly His finger pointed on something that I didn't know that I was carrying on the inside of me. That place of worship made me transparent, vulnerable before the Lord, to where He could show me that thing that needed to be taken care of. And it indeed was taken care of right then and there. When we come before the Lord in worship at His table, it's a test of our heart. You know, verse 29 of chapter 11 says, "For continually eating and drinking with the wrong spirit will bring judgment upon yourself by not recognizing the body." This insensitivity is why many of you are weak, chronically ill, and even dying. If you do not sit in judgment of others, you will avoid judgment of yourself. But when we are judged, it's the Lord's training that we will not be condemned along with the world. So then, my fellow believers, when you assemble as one to share a meal, show respect for one another and wait for all to be served. But here's the part that I wanted to point out. It says, if we do not sit in judgment of others, we will avoid judgment ourselves. So when we pull up to the table in worship, our hearts can be tested to see if we have any judgment in our heart towards others. James 2 verse 13 says, "No mercy will be shown to those who show no mercy to others. Mercy triumphs over judgment," always. In Mark chapter 11, in verse 23, we always know, we know what the prayer of faith is, but we must remember also that it goes on and says, after the prayer of faith, that whenever we stand, if we find that we're carrying something in our heart against another person, we're to release them and forgive them so that we can be forgiven. And so again, I want you to see that when we pull up to the table of the Lord in worship, this will be a place of remembering the works of the Lord. It will be a place of testimony. It'll be a place of transparency. It'll be a place where our heart will be tested. It will be a place of thanksgiving. I love you and I appreciate you being with me today, and I look forward to being with you again on Friday.